All right, there we go. We had some technical difficulties. Technical difficulties. All good. All good. What's going on, everybody? How are you doing? How are you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me know down in the chat if you can hear me loud and clear. It's good to see your face wherever you're tuning in from the East Coast, West Coast, Central Standard Time. As always, I say, jumping on here, I like to keep myself as professional, but also we have a good time here. You'll be here with me for roughly about an hour 15. We try to keep it right around in that time frame. If you are re-listening, you're more than welcome to come back or skip ahead from this intro as we allow people that are coming in live to tune in and come along for the journey here. So let me know where you're tuning in from. If you're able to text, chat, if you're watching from your TV, hopefully I don't look too bad on that blown up screen. I just envision myself on some 70-inch, just looking crazy. But hopefully everyone had a great weekend. Isn't it crazy that August is almost up? It's literally like I felt like I was just doing a video here on a live talking about, hey, best stocks for August, and it's already hey, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. The time is moving the same, but it just seems like the mundaneness of life sometimes as we get, maybe what I've noticed, as grown folks, as adults, remember those breakups of school? Like we don't have something like, summer breaks and, a 2 month, now kids are having like 2 month holiday breaks. I'm like, man, do y'all ever go to school? You go to school for like 3 months. It's like, you're already back with your parents. But maybe that was it. Maybe that's why it seemed like the year was just like, man, can this year be over when we were young kids? And now we're like, slow down. Okay. But it's good to see y'all popping in here. We'll give it 2 more minutes at the top of the hour. I try to give a 5 to 10 minute buffer, let everybody come in here. So thank y'all for being here. I appreciate you so much. As those that are coming in here, staying in here, wanting to know if you got a notes, if you want to take notes, if you're just here listening, if I have a new person that's on here, that is awesome. I welcome all likes of everybody. I try to educate from a stance of if someone joined here knew absolutely nothing. All right. That is my mission, is to bring more people aware of this skill set, the stock market, the economy in general, how people think when they're moving money around in the markets, how to think like big money, why retailers and, how we were taught to invest growing up, just invest in your 401k and just let your company do it and let them match it and just set it and forget it. And that type of mentality, becoming more of an active investor, understanding how to read the charts a little bit better so you know when to buy. The top questions that people ask if they don't know what should I buy now? It's like, what are you trying to accomplish? Let's be able to ask more intentional questions, right? So hey, I'm looking to do this. I have about $5,000. What's the best place to potentially put it? Not financial advice, but looking at where's the best opportunity. I'm looking to get a better return than my savings account at 3 to 5%, maybe in a CD that's better than 5 to 7%. I'm looking to get 30% this year minimally. Is there a way that I can do that with a specific stock with $5,000? Right? Those types of things. So that by the time you look at the end of the year, you're not just holding for the long term, which we should, but you're able to actually pull some profits. And that's the big thing when it comes to trading or being able to leverage the stock market, to actually see cash that you can go out and pay for things, maybe the holidays or whatever, or pull on, right? So there's our 2 minutes. Let's jump into it. I appreciate y'all so much for being here. We're going to go over what Powell signaled this previous week with the Jackson Hole event, why the market spurred so high on Friday, and you were getting a little concerned, or some people were like, hey, is this the start of the sell-off? And we're right back to pretty much all-time highs again. So we have some things that are in the way this week that we need to pay attention to. Number one, we have NVDA earnings on Wednesday. We also have some data points that are coming in as well. We also have the end of a month, a very pivotal month of August. We've had extreme bullishness for about 4 months, from May, June, July, and now August. 4 months of extreme bullish nature from that April and end of March sell-off. So this is very pivotal to start getting your game plan together. I think this particular Stock Sermon Sunday and next Stock Sermon Sunday, you need to put on your calendars. I don't care who you watch, if it's myself or other people, but this is the time where you don't want to miss what's coming next. There's a lot of opportunity. A lot of opportunities for, as we call it, easy money. Okay. That means if you have $100, someone could easily make by the end of the year $200-300 on their money just setting and forgetting it. Right? If someone has $1,000 extra, just buy this particular stock, set it and forget it for 4 or 5, 6 months. For those that are you in options and options trading, right? We've got some things for set it and forget it for 5, 6, 7 months that are 2, 3, 4, 5x on your money, right? You do have to be a little bit more patient, but these are the opportunities that happen when it comes to the time of August into September and October and then through the holidays. Okay, it happens almost every year. Just like I was telling people at the beginning of the year to prepare for that March, April sell-off, right? So when the new year started, should have been preparing in February, right? Now's the time to start preparing for, hey, what should I be prepared for? How do I want to grow a little bit of extra that I have or a lot of extra and maybe take a little bit of risk? All right, cool. With that being said, let's jump into the share of screen and let's jump into the information. As always, hit a like, subscribe, share this video out, tag me, go ahead and send a screenshot. If you got an Instagram or TikTok or whatever you use, Facebook, you're more than welcome to tag. Information's on the screen. If you do want to join Leverage University, which is our Discord, which you see right here, where I live trade, this is where I'm giving my specific levels. So you don't have to wait from Sunday to Sunday to get updates. I'm doing it every single day throughout the week about what we're buying, what we're looking at. If you want to join there, the 3-day free trial link is always linked in the description of the videos. If you're not able to find that link, you're more than welcome to go to the Instagram and click on the bio there. All right, cool. Let's jump into, where is it? Economic calendar, and take a look of the economic calendar for the week. So if you're new, pay attention closely to my process of how I evaluate the week. I do fundamental analysis, meaning the economic calendar, what data points, right? Inflation data points, how our consumer spending's doing, all those things actually move the market, and it tells us essentially how the market is doing, the economy's doing, and that's what spurs the market higher or lower based off of how the overall economy is doing. It also helps the Fed decide if they want to cut rates, pause rates. So us investors that are more active in the markets, we are able to analyze this data and kind of project or see, hey, the data is looking good. Powell's probably going to go ahead and cut more. Versus other folks, they may wait and say, oh man, I didn't know we had rate cuts today. Meanwhile, you should have been looking 2 months ago or been in a community or somewhere where someone's telling you that information, right? You don't have to always be the head of the household or the person leading the pack, just be a part of a pack. All right. So here we go. Monday, new home sales data. That's going to be very pivotal. As we know, consumer spending, people's pockets are getting a little bit thinner for extra money that they may have. The rates that are on homes right now for new homes, some of them are good, some of them are bad. A lot of people do not. I have a lot of opinions around the home and housing market personally. I think the wage to, and you can always make it as kind of an objection to this, saying, well, Brian, like, there are people that make good money and they're buying homes on a regular. I'm like, yeah, but the majority, if you ask a person on the street, like if they had the money to buy a home, are they like, yeah, I'm ready to jump in? Or are they a little bit hesitant? Like, yeah, I have a good rate on my home right now. I don't think I want to sell it because then I'll have to, find another home and it's kind of skimp and I don't know. And, what if that goes wrong and I'm stuck trying to rent an apartment in the middle, trying to find a new home and then my current home doesn't sell? Right? Like the housing market is just a little bit shaky right now. So new home sales, that's going to be very pivotal. Just kind of pay attention to that particular market and see what's going on. On Tuesday, we got durable goods. Consumer confidence is always a big data report. And 10 a.m. data is typically always a very pivotal data report. So if you're not too privy on what all these things mean, you can do your due diligence. Maybe I'll do a YouTube video separately on how to analyze some of these data points. I think I did maybe at one point, but I'll update it. But 10 a.m. data is usually a very pivotal data point. So new home sales, 10 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Eastern, consumer confidence, pending home sales, 10 a.m. Eastern. And then Friday, we got PCE towards the end of the month. All right. So this is going to be pretty big to see how we finish off August. Is August going to be kind of a sell-off into September and people taking their profits, going and spending that money for Labor Day weekend? Or is it going to be, hey, I'm going to hold through the weekend of Labor Day, 3-day weekend, and then we'll see what happens going into September. I'll show you on the charts what that typically looks like, but typically with a 3-day weekend starting off a new month, if you were extremely bullish for 4 months and you're coming into like the holiday season and seasonality, you typically may have some profit taking towards the end or the start of a new month here on September. They wake up on September 2nd and say, cool, I'm pulling it, right? So that is what I want you to get as a sentiment of how this end of August can be a little bit trappy, as I like to say. Like, we're extremely bullish. We could take out a new all-time high. And let me know down below in the comments, for those that are not inside of Leverage University yet, you're kind of starting to see these stock sermon Sundays. If you're watching the market, you remember last week when I said, hey, watch out for the pullback on Palantir, or the big pullback on some of these stocks. And you're like, Brian did tell us, like, watch out for this trap and it was going to reject, or watch out for this big bounce or whatever that goes higher. So let me know down below with a 1 if these stock sermon Sundays, for those that are not inside of our community just yet, they're starting to get you a better picture as the week plays out, so you're not shocked. So let me know down below in the comments if this stuff is helping you throughout the week. All right, cool. So there's our so all this being said, when I have a heavy data week like this, it typically means, 1, I'm going to lower my risk size. That means if I'm trading, I'm going to mitigate my risk. So for my options people out there, I do trade futures as well. For my futures folks, lower the risk. That means if you're used to a position size of $1,000 and that's 10 contracts for you, right? $100 per contract on options trading, and you put $1,000 in, I would pull that down just a little bit because of the volatility based off of data. Okay. So that's just my recommendation. Second, I treat each day as a new day. So if you're a swing trader, like, hey, Brian, I'm just going to hold this into the next day and hold this into the next day, right? That becomes very tough when you're holding a position over into the next day, and when you have data that could come out good, and then you had data that could come out bad, and then you have a day that's off, then you have NVDA earnings that could go either way, and then you got GDP, and then you got PCE. So you don't really know what direction the market is going to truly go. So for those that like to hold their trades, make sure you have enough time on your contracts for those options trades. For my futures traders, you already know most of you are day traders anyway, so that's my recommendation. All right. We good there? Put a 2 in the chat if we are good on this. Put a 2 in the chat if we are good on this. I'm bullish, Dr. B. Probably means market will crash. What's your puts plays for August and September? Yeah, I'll go over there. I appreciate you, Tanvir. So I'm going to talk about my puts plays, things that I think will pull back. And then I'm going to talk about personally like the bullish plays, which most people are bullish, extremely bullish, right? And there are some stocks that have been beaten down that I think is a really good risk to reward versus maybe some of the tech stocks that you can get a little bit more value out of. And Ben, I agree with you that, especially for those of you that Ben trades equity, right? What that means is he's trading, but he's trading just on shares. Okay, I've talked about that in some of my educational videos, that there's different types of trading. There's equity trading where you trade your shares, right? So there's no theta decay, there's no expiration date. You just buy 100 shares of Apple and you can sell 100 shares of Apple tomorrow if you make profit, right? So that's the type of trading that Ben, if you see right there, Latin Lover, that's the type of trading he does. So he can be bullish, right? Because there's no expiration if the market just continues. It's called momentum trading, okay? So equity trading, options trading, which a lot of people are familiar with, little amount of money in, if you know how to trade properly on the charts, right? You can turn $100 into $500 profit pretty easily if you know what you're doing, right? And then there is futures trading, Forex, crypto trading, things of that nature. So it all depends on the type of trader you are. And then also there is a person that is a long-term investor, right? So if you're new to my channel, I talk about both sides. So if you're like, Brian, I'm bullish. I'm like, okay, well, when? By the end of this week? Cool. And then September, you need to reassess. October, you need to reassess what's going on. All right. All right, let me check chat one last time. Just laughing at Ben, the skater reel down there. All right, let's jump into our earnings for this week. We know we have NVIDIA that is going to be main watch on Wednesday after close. Let's go here and go to our earnings and there. All right. So earnings, as I always say, I've got new people on here. You're more than welcome to, if you don't know how to trade earnings or look at earnings or what this is, every company reports earnings 4 times a year. It's a great time to trade, right? For these particular big tech companies or companies that you have been watching for a while, you could have very big moves. And then also it is a good time for long-term investors to reassess of how that company is doing. So if you're holding, just say 100 shares of Okta or NVIDIA or Dollar General or whatever you're holding, you want to pay attention to their earnings to make sure that that company is still growing in their projections, their guidance, so on and so forth. All right. So NVIDIA, main watch here after close on Wednesday. For trading purposes, I always say this every single stock service Sunday. If you're a person that likes to put lotto trades, LOTTO, I live here in Vegas, okay? If you're like the person that plays gambles and guesses and NVIDIA is going to beat earnings and you want to put a call option in before their earnings. I don't have many people like that on my channel or, that watch me or are part of my community, but you're like, Brian, if this thing goes crazy, I mean, I can make this amount of money. I'm like, I get it, right? I get it, right? Amazon had great earnings and dropped $40. Okay. So all I'm saying is if you're that type of person, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just dismiss this comment, but I have to address it. If you're that type of person, just know your risk, right? And analyze that call option or option could go to zero. Okay. If you're comfortable with that and you want to make a educated, estimated bet on it, that's cool. The best way to trade it, the gold standard, is to wait till after they report, right? Which is after close on Wednesday, and trade it Thursday morning. Once we get a direction, if they have great earnings, cool. We can trade it with the volatility back and forth. Okay. There's more to that as well that I talk about on how to trade during earnings video on the channel. You can go watch that in your free time. Right. So NVIDIA main watch. I know there's some others that people may have questions on. Okta is another one that a lot of folks have been making a lot of money on this year. Dollar General, I've been mentioning it for a while. I mentioned that at the beginning of the year. It was a great long-term buy. It was a great leap option buy. If you got into Dollar General, it's looking great. Snowflake is another one. CrowdStrike is another one. So Wednesday after close is going to be very pivotal for Thursday morning trading. All right. Dix, we kind of watched that. I want to shout out my boy James. He's a moderator in the community, also a good trader, swing trader as well. James trades Dix very well, so he'll probably have his eye on that. I will touch base with him inside of Leverage to see what his thoughts are. With the rate cuts, okay, with the rate cuts and the projection of these rate cuts and how bullish and dovish Powell was on Friday, we do want to pay attention to Affirm and SoFi. And also, God dang it, it'll come to me. If y'all know what I'm talking about, put it in the, but I'm paying attention to some of these smaller financial borrowing systems there. What's the other one? Affirm, SoFi, it'll come to me. But Affirm on Friday, Dell is another big mover as well. Ulta is a sleeper too. So every day I'm going to be having my head on a swivel. So if you're in live trading with me, please be ready. Just be ready. All right. Be ready because I'm going to be taking trades pretty quickly. I'm going to try to jump on a little bit earlier to give people a heads up, but you need to have your head on a swivel if you're live trading with me this week. If you're paper trading with me, cool. We do have people that join the community and say, hey, Brian, I'm not ready to put real money in there yet. Can I paper trade? Yes, you can. Right. So you can get an idea of what we're talking about. Okay. So Wednesday, Thursday morning, main trading opportunities. And then probably Friday morning as well with some of these. Cool. So exciting week to end off the month of August. All right, let me check chat. Any final questions on there? There we go. Appreciate you, Tanvir. Yep. UPST, Upstart. Appreciate you. All right, cool. All righty. Let's jump into the charts. Okay, so I don't want to lose anybody here. So I always give a little quick refresher for those that don't know the charts just yet, because I do have beginners or people that come on and just say, well, let me just check this thing out. And I never want to lose you to where you tune out and you're like, I don't know what this stuff means yet, right? Have you ever been in a room and someone's talking about something and you're just like, man, I don't think they see me. I don't think they're talking to me. I'm talking to everybody in here. Beginner, intermediate, advanced. Everyone's welcome. Okay. So there's these sectors ETFs, okay? Excuse me, sector ETFs. If you see over here, I have a bunch of watch lists and I have sectors that are separated, okay? They're in specific order here, meaning these are the strongest sectors that move the entirety of the market. So if you're a person that invests into VOO and VTI and SPY and QQQ and those ETFs that they just tell you, your financial advisor or your company or you, just like, I was just told to buy this and hold it, right? This is take it a step down from that. What moves those specific larger ETFs, right? Specific sectors. So the financial sector, if the financial sector is doing very, very well, the market is going to be continuously bullish. Meaning if there's rate cuts, if the banks are being treated nicely, if people are putting their money back into the banks and trusting a little bit more, taking out loans, new home sales, they're borrowing, things like that. The financial sector is doing well. The market's going to be doing well. The tech sector, XLK. All right. You can treat this as, big tech, your magnificent seven, so on and so forth. Okay. It's consumer discretionary. This is a major one right here that I've been mentioning for months, which is when the rates come down or when people feel like they have more money in their pocket, or the consumer sentiment, meaning us, the consumer, is like, hey, I'm willing to go to the store, and maybe spend a little bit on Labor Day. Maybe I just spend a little bit on Amazon Prime Day. Maybe I'm, spending a little bit more for the holiday season because I'm my portfolio's been doing well, things like that. Like, hey, like job or whatever it is, you just feel better about the economy, okay? Because things are going well. That injects confidence into the consumer to put money back into the market. So consumer discretionary are companies such as Amazon, such as Lululemon, such as Abercrombie and Fitch, such as Home Depot, Lowe's, right? TJ Maxx, Home Goods. Hey, shout out to all my ladies and their home goods out there, because I've been in. Let me not go there. So I bought stuff from Home Goods, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. I have a woman. Okay, I've been in there with my mother, and that TJ Maxx and that daggone Home Goods is is the death. I just be trying to find a seat. Like, golly. Oh my gosh. So the consumer discretionary is just think about you going to shop. Okay. That sector, we want to pay attention to that sector because the rest of the sectors have been, moving pretty well. Finance, tech, and consumer discretionary is in that order. And then healthcare has been lagging as well. So just like every single stock and index, the chart is also for that sector. So I can see the same setups. Brian, when I told my mother, love her to death, when I told my mother, hey, Ma, you need to pay attention to healthcare, right? You need to pay attention to healthcare. Wow. This is not just her, I'm making an example. I've already talked to her, but well, I don't know. Like they've been cutting stuff and Medicare, Medicaid, and I don't, the UNH thing, people's insurance. And I'm like, okay, well, healthcare is not going anywhere. And people are unfortunately/fortunately passing away every day. Okay. People are getting sick every day. So it's not going anywhere. Okay. It's a $1 trillion industry. So with that being said, look at this healthcare sector, XLV. If I'm a chart person, if y'all been paying attention to the charts are where the money is. You see this consolidation, just sideways movement in this channel. Okay. And I always talk about charts like building a home, right? Couldn't get out of this for roughly around 3 years. Okay. And then start breaking above, right? Now is pull back and reclaimed that 140 level. Okay. So again, previous highs slash a resistance or a ceiling now becomes the floor or a support. All right. So simple structure here. Couldn't get above, couldn't get above. I want you to imagine, and I'm doing this more so for my beginners that are still learning the charts. Imagine this over here was not there yet. Okay. Imagine if all that was not there. Could not get above. Where's that? 135. Could not get above that. They're still building the home, still trying to get confidence in healthcare again. It finally breaks above. Now I can stand on top of that level. So now I want to turn this into a support where buyers are going to step in and hold that level. So when you see that, that sector is showing bullish nature. And if you're seeing this, this is also something. All right. What does that look like? A bull flag. All right. So if I see that on the entire sector, what do you think I want to pay attention to? I want to go to the healthcare sector and say, let me take a look at UNH. Let me take a look at HIMSS. Let me take a look at CNC. Let me take a look at, any of these healthcare companies that you can name. Okay. So while everyone's focused on big tech, which tech is going to continuously go higher, we could have, like I talked about in title last week's video, we could have a rotation, right? So a rotation is a sector rotation where tech needs to pull back, right? See, tech broke out. Tech needs to pull back a little bit, and they'll rotate the money into healthcare or into consumer discretionary to take out a new high, right? Especially into the holiday season. Put a 3 in the chat if this is helping thus far. Put a 3 in the chat if this is helping thus far. We good? We good? Threes. All right. So those are your main 4 right there. I do have materials, home builders, ETF. So you can see the home builders, they're making their money. Okay. Building more homes. There we go. Just look in your own city. How many more communities, how many more, in my opinion, poorly built homes are being just thrown up? The home being built for $800,000 and charging $2 million. The home being built for about $300,000 and charging $800,000 for it. And it's not built like old homes used to be built. So they can't keep up. Yet there's a lot of homes that are sitting on the market as well. So they're trying to prepare for something that's going to happen to where how much longer is $1 million home going to be sitting on the market? And people are like, I'm just going, I don't want to pay those property taxes. All right. I'll just rent for a little bit and I'm fine. Like I'll wait for the rates to go down and whatnot, unless someone's already in their home. Right. Interesting concepts that are going on. Interesting concepts. All right. Yeah. So many new complexes. I always tell anybody that's trying to learn the market and just like, hey, I want to learn trading. I'm like, this is so much more. David can attest. Like, appreciate you, David, for popping in. Like anyone that's in contact with me, I'm not saying I'm the best person ever, but what I get from the people that I interact with, like, hey, Brian, like I really learned X, Y, and Z. It will help you in your psychology, how you feel about money. Like, yeah, you're scared. You're scared to put $100 up. You're scared to lose $50, yet you'll spend $50 on the weekend, right? So it changes your psychology, and it's only because it's new, right? If you knew based off of whatever like especially for y'all sports better, if you knew your favorite team and you're like, man, I know Lamar Jackson from the Ravens, put $50 on him. He's not losing this game, right? It's the same way with the market. So once you become more confident each and every day, get in earlier, right? Get in a community, get somewhere where you're like, I'm not making any money yet, but let me just watch this thing, right? Let me just watch this thing because it takes time, right? You need a couple of earnings seasons to figure out how earnings move. You need a couple of Powells to see what that even means, right? But it will also allow you to see how to prepare when these things are going to happen. So what if a lot of us didn't know, like just say this, like a lot of us did not know that a 2020 crash was going to come. We didn't know what it was, but if you look at the stock market, right, it was leading up towards that, right? It was leading up to something pulling back, right? During 2021, 2022, when we were all spending, and myself included, right? Man, let me go out and start this Turo business. Let me get more of this credit. Let me do all this stuff. And it's like, okay, what's going to happen as a result of that? Why are these rates so low? And they skyrocket back up. Now the wage to inflation ratio is completely off. Wages stayed the same. Inflation went up. The same thing will happen again and it will rotate again, right? We've all heard of the bubble, right? So the markets, more specifically the charts, will tell you when these things will happen, right? Our community personally in Leverage University, I can go back to our Discord, and this is just saying what it is. When we go to SPY, we knew that this crash in April was coming because of the charts. Because history on the charts repeats itself, right? I'm on a weekly time frame. There's 2020, extreme bullish nature, pullback 2022, right there, cup and handle formation. If you know, you know. There's a cup and handle bullish formation from the end of 2023, extreme bullishness with no real pullback, deep pullback. There you go. And then we'll probably have another pullback again. So instead of getting excited about chasing these highs continuously, right? If you didn't buy the April dip, or you haven't, traded it up and traded it up and traded it up and traded it up, right? And you're trying to get involved, I'd say just buy a couple of shares, whatever you want, do what you please, and then just monitor those stocks, especially the hot stocks such as Palantir that has pulled back from 190 to almost 140. Great buying opportunity. But if you bought at 190, some people panic sold all the way down to 140. It may retrace, but I've got Palantir potentially pulling back to 120. All right. So the chasing, it will come back to you. You might have to wait 6 months. You might have to wait a year. It will come back to you. And when you get that big red pullback, that's when you buy. All right. Cool. Let's jump into our SPY analysis. How are we doing on time? 30 minutes in. We're rolling. We're rolling today. All right. We'll go on a weekly time frame. And if any questions, like if anyone's like, hey, Brian, I'm still learning, I don't know, or hey, I need a refresher. Can you just tell me really quick, like how you do this or what indicators, like now's the time to get me. Because sometimes it resonates a little bit differently when you're hearing it live versus when you watch a video and you're like, man, I can't clarify what he just talked about. So catch me there. I'm a person that is, very open to answering live questions, right, on these channels versus just giving a live update and you're just commenting like I'm reading the comments. Okay. So ask any questions that you like as I go through this. Okay. So SPY, we've got our fundamental analysis, right? We've got bullish nature because Powell has signaled potentially some dovish bullish nature. If you don't know who Powell is the Federal Reserve Chairman for now, right? Separate entity from the White House, and he and his team are making decisions based off rate cuts, pauses, hikes, and how the economy is doing. So that man has more power over your portfolio than, the banks do or whatever company does, CEOs. Yes, obviously, but he has power to move the market. I'll just say that. Okay. So with that being said, we've got a monthly time frame. Let's look at this month since the month of August is about to end. I always go from a monthly time frame if a month is closing. And we've got extreme bullish. This is what I was talking about. Each candlestick represents a month time frame. So this is August right here. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark off the previous candle close from each previous month. Okay. So if you can see that stair stepping, the candle close is the top of the candle body. Okay. And right now the candle body has not closed for August. So right now it's sitting at roughly 645.31. Okay. So if you can see here that we're extremely bullish based off of the previous month candle held and pushed higher. So at the end of June, July opened up and pretty much stayed right where it was previous month and just went. Okay. July closed with a little bit of profit taking right there. That's that top wick. It moved from, look over to my right, that's the price, 640, and closed the month at 632. It's not a big sell off. It's just people taking their profits at the end of the month. Okay. Now, August opened up with a little bit of a deeper pullback back to where? Right there, 618, which was the end of June's high and pretty much the July low, or the open of July. Okay. So essentially you see this stair stepping move up, up, up. Okay. So until we have somewhat of a red candle or somewhat of a top wick that comes a little bit heavier on a monthly, we're not really seeing much selling at all, right? Which agrees to what I was stating with Ben, right? The skater reel down below, or Latin lover in our community. Okay. I know Ben has some crazy names, but he is a professional. He is a CPA. Okay. Is an accountant, very educated. Okay. So, so you're not really seeing much selling there. So that move right there from this April dip shows us that the market is extremely bullish. So Brian, if the market is extremely bullish on a monthly time frame, why is everyone telling us that September is going to start selling and that October should be, concerning? That's just seasonality. We don't know until it's proven, but you don't go against historical context of a season showing proof, decades of proof. Okay. So if I go back here and we go on some months, right? Back in 2024, here is July. Here is the end of August, which you see is green, but it dropped all the way back down to 506. So it dropped roughly $40 down and got bought back up. September came back down, but this was also an election season. So just like last Stock Sermon Sunday, I repeat myself because there may be some new people. I talked about this, that this really doesn't count as a true seasonality because the market is typically more bullish during an election season anyways, especially with Trump coming in. People were extremely bullish. Okay. If we go back to 2020, roughly right here, 2023 is a realistic example of what typically happens going extremely bullish. Do you see that July? And then a little bit of selling that was a little bit more drastic here with a red candle into August. And then we have somewhat of September, October. Okay. There's that pullback. And then there's the bullish nature. Okay. So this could prove to be true again, but it might take a couple of days or maybe a week to play out. And that's why I'm saying we need to pay attention to how this month ends. If we end extremely bullish, cool. We'll take that bullishness into September and we'll see how we react. Okay. Let's go into a weekly time frame. See how that candle's looking. Extremely bullish. All right. Higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. All right. And then we've got continuous higher highs, higher highs, higher highs, higher highs. Bullish. Now, let's go into a daily. Okay. And this is why this key next couple of days with NVIDIA, with all the data, right? If this trend continues and everything goes right, this thing is going to 650, 655, and we're squeezing like that. Right? So if we take out another new all-time high, right? And just say a day closes above 647. Right? We close a day like that. Well, there's nothing really stopping it other than data or NVIDIA crashing the party to go up something like that. Okay. Now, if I go on to ES, which are the futures of SPY, okay, we can see that that is a very pivotal level. So if you're a futures person, if you like watching the futures market, you want to watch 6,500. Round even number, as we call it, psychological level. If we get above 6,500, right, either overnight tonight or sometime Monday, Tuesday, NVIDIA's earnings is good and we get above that 6,500, well, there you go. SPY is going to follow and we're going probably 50 to 100 points more, okay, to finish off the month of August in extremely bullish nature. Okay. So that is my first indication, is not to go against the trend until proven otherwise, right? But you know me, for those that have been following me for a minute, I always like to have, as I call, my head on a swivel. I do not want to get trapped with some type of data coming in or NVIDIA crashing the party and said, well, our guidance is not good, we're falling, right? Something like that could pull the market back before it goes higher, right? So I want to have two instances, a bias that, hey, this is extremely bullish. People have like, hey, Powell's cutting rates, right? Every data point's looking pretty good. CPI was good, right? Healthcare has been lagging. If that picks up, we're going, right? So I am with that party, but we're still at all-time highs and we've got to take it out first. Okay. So does that make sense for everybody? We're on the same page. Can I get a 5 in the chat? Does that make sense for everybody? If we clear above 647, if you're trading on your own and not inside the community or not in other communities, if you're trading on your own, you're trading more specifically, not just long-term. For my long-term person, just hold, buy the dip. It's very easy. Long-term investing is not that difficult in my opinion, right? Hold, buy the dip. Trading, which I believe everyone should learn how to trade, or at least how the market moves. We got to clear this to take it out. Okay. Which right now, it looks like it. Consolidation. Big bullish move up. If we hold this and we start breaking above, that's a bull flag, consolidation. And we're taking a measured move from this move here. And we can pull it over and go like that. And that takes us roughly about 653, 650 psych level, and then 655. And we're taking another leg up. All right. Now, what also could happen is I want to watch this right here, which is that previous low. Okay. Do y'all see this consolidation here last time when people were getting very bullish? Right. And they were like, Brian, this is going to take out, we're going all-time highs. Right. And we had a low volume area and we broke that, an extreme selling card coming in. Right. Well, that is now a support level that we need to hold so it doesn't do it again. So if I move that up, that's roughly about 643 on SPY. Okay. So 640 to 643, ideally roughly around that 643 level. If we pull back somehow and maybe a little pullback like that, we need to hold that and then go higher. Okay. If you know me inside of the Leverage University, or if you've been following me on socials and you see some of the trades that I take, you're like, man, this dude only takes puts. I don't. That's one of my bread and butters personally, is I do short the market very well. Okay. I do short the market very well. So that just means that if I see some type of breakdown of that level, that bigger pullback could come in for some weird reason. I don't know. NVIDIA ruins the party. We come all the way back down there. It double bottoms and we rip right all the way back up. That has happened before. Okay. So these are the things that I have a head on a swivel for. Is we get all the way up here. Big money is very good at trapping people so they can make all the money back down. All right. So bullish. Does that make sense for everybody? I think y'all put fives in the chat already. Just clarification, fives, fives, fives. Does that make sense? So my mind is literally like from in my sports people, right? If you're a quarterback, if you're a point guard, if you're a leader in your corporation, if you're a CEO, you have these scenarios where you're prepared for every single play so you can just react. So you don't have too much of a bias saying, man, when the market opens, I'm just going to play calls. Or, hey, we're bullish. I'm not fighting against that. I'm bullish. And you enter without thinking and it pulls back. Right? That is blindly, that is gambling. Okay. So right now we are holding this level here. As you can see, we pull back, holding that 643, 645 level, and we can go higher. We good? If unemployment doesn't get too crazy, we could see 680 in SPY. Yeah. We break all all-time highs. Yeah, we can just keep squeezing. We just keep squeezing. If we also look, if you're a RSI type of person, RSI relative strength index. Okay, so I don't lose anybody here. I'm on a daily time frame, extremely bullish candle there. Okay, off of those lows, still higher lows, still higher highs. And if I draw a trend line here, it kind of lines up roughly. If that takes that out, right to the top of that trend line there. Y'all see that? So I can get an idea of ideally where, if we break into new all-time highs, going to roughly 657, 655, right in that area I was just talking about. Maybe even 660. So Ben, yeah, 680. We'd probably do a little chop, back and forth if we stay bullish, right? And we don't break that trend. But yeah, 680 is right there. Ways to go, but for sure. I think 680 by the end of the year could happen if we stay in this channel and we don't break trend. So yeah. Cool. All right, let's check chat. Unemployment, 555. Okay, cool. So many huge okay, just making sure, David. All right, so that's SPY analysis. Stay bullish, right? If you're a buyer, if you're a bull, okay, ideally your buy areas would want to be at 640. If it pulls back there, 640, pull back. Okay, if it pulls back even deeper, you've got some buyers sitting right around 635. Okay, and you'd want it to stay in this channel, just like it has been. Okay. All righty. We good on SPY? Any other questions on SPY? Nope. I was going to mention the RSI for a second. You can see the RSI, relative strength index. It tells us when something's a little bit overbought in that caution area above 70. Okay. That's an indicator that we use in the market to see if something is a little bit overbought, too many cooks in the kitchen. You can see when that RSI gets up high above in that caution area, what does the market do? It pulls back. All right, so it's not yet in that caution area on a daily, so we do have higher to go before it gets back in that area, which could be roughly at 655, 660. If SPY pushes higher and breaks new all-time highs, that's really where you'd want to be, a little bit more of a profit taker. But right now, we still got a little bit more room to go. 4 hour, got a little bit more room to go. 1 hour, sitting right at it a little bit. And then there's that 30-minute in my day trading signals right there, which would be our 15-minute and our 5-minute. All right. So looks even better on this little consolidation right here. Extremely bullish. Bullish consolidation right around that 645. And if that breaks Monday morning, there we go. Breakout. Cool. All right. Same thing with QQQ. Let's go over to Qs. Now, Qs are lagging behind just a little bit with big tech, right? As Ben says in the community, don't mess with my big tech. I am not, but I like to keep a head on a swivel. Okay. We got to clear this this 576 level. Got to get it back above that level because extreme sellers step back in. You can see that SPY was a little bit stronger here. In my opinion, ES also strong because healthcare is picking up. That consumer discretionary is picking up. Right. So if all those are picking up, SPY is going to move a little bit more aggressively. Now, QQQ or the NASDAQ or NQ, big tech has been a little bit shaky, like with Palantir, NVIDIA pulling back a little bit before their earnings, people taking their profits on the Apples and things of that nature, semiconductors. But if it clears and it does what it's supposed to do, and this stays bullish above 570, clears above 576, we got 580 in sight, and we got new all-time highs squeezing like that. Okay. So we want to watch that 576 very cleanly this week if we get above it. And we also wanted to really hold that 570 level. All right. For my structure people, anyone that's really, into structures. All right. I'm a big head and shoulders guy. Okay. So if I do head and shoulders right here, if we can't take out that 576, that could just be a retest and we come right back down. All right. Because we're coming right back up into where heavy sellers. I mean, look at that candle right there. Look at this candle right here. So we got to clear that level above 576 because heavy sellers are right there, back down, right there, back down, right here. Big sell candle right there. And if you see into Friday, you see this top wick that kind of came in a little bit where they were like, okay, we're coming up into that area. It pushed up and then sold right back down into 572. So got to watch that to make sure it holds and doesn't break down back into 565. Okay. So that's our next pullback level for my bulls is if you are patient and you're like, hey, I'm going to just watch on Monday, tomorrow, see what happens. If we pull back to that level, that could be a retest to go like that. See that previous high that now turns into a support. And do you see this trend line here? Right there. All right. So I don't want to hear nobody ever saying that, oh man, trading's a, gambling and the stock market's a scam. You just don't want to look at the charts. That's it. You just in here just trading off and investing on vibes. Okay. So we were already prepared for the big Palantir pullback because we were looking at the chart. All right. So 565, 566, we can see where buyers are. You can see this. That's a big level that would like to have a lot of interaction on it. You see right there, big turnaround, interaction, break above, big bullish reaction off there, break down, reaction right there, break down, break above. There's a multiple actions around that 566 to 565 level. I would say even 567 roughly. Okay. So 567 could be a pullback level if we pull back first before we go higher. So want to be prepared for that. If we break above this 575 above previous day highs, we can push into that 576. And then we want to take that out, just stair step its way up like this. Okay. And then we're back to all-time highs. Now, I think NVIDIA and a lot of data is going to have a lot to do with that. NVIDIA has good earnings. We're back to all-time highs. NVIDIA has shaky earnings. We're going to pull back and probably fill that gap. You see the indecision? It's kind of like, okay, I don't know yet. We're bullish until otherwise. NVIDIA, you either save the day or you ruin the party. Either way. All right. IWM. Rate cuts, very good for small cap companies. We're almost back to all-time highs of IWM, and we have cleared above those 2021 highs yet again, which is roughly around that 233 level. You can see now we have extreme bullish candle that's cleared above there. We want to turn that into a support now, right? Previous rejection, you can see right there below that 233. All right, so now that 233 is roughly a support level that IWM would want to hold. Okay. If I go into a daily, you can see how it's consolidating, just sitting, moving sideways, trying to decide what's the next move. Okay. So small caps, light rate cuts. Ideally, if it continues bullish, we're going all the way back up here to 240, 243. My strategy for anyone that wanted to kind of know when I see a big move, I'm typically a little bit more patient. I never like to chase a big move unless I'm already in. So whenever I see an extreme bullish candle like this, I'm like, that is extreme volatility. If I was a part of this move, right, what would I want to do if I woke up in the morning on Monday or Tuesday heading into data? I might want to pull my profits a little bit, pull it all the way back down and repeat the same trade, right? So if I'm not a part of that big bullish move, I'm typically a little bit more patient, right? Typically a little bit more patient. The reason being is this is a risk to reward tool. And I'm mentioning it because we have beginners again. Okay. And beginner does not mean like, you know, you don't know anything. It just means the experience of knowing what I'm talking about. Brian, it looks bullish. Why would you not just trade it's like the entry point matters for trading, right? The entry point matters. So if you're buying shares, it doesn't matter. Just buy, keep buying more, keep buying more. If you want to learn how to trade, if I enter a call position or right here at 233 and it pulls all the way back down to 230, right? I better have enough time on that options contract, right? I better have an expiration that's further out because my entry was off. I want to enter down here for calls. So my risk to reward looks like this. If I enter here, I've got this risk, right? Coming down, back. And I've got that reward. What does that look like? About a 50-50? 60-40? So now your risk needs to look like this. So I got to have a stop loss underneath that 233 if I enter here. But I'd rather have this. I'd rather it pull all the way back, trap everybody, and then I got all that reward back up. So when people ask me, Brian, why would you short this move? Why are you playing puts? It's because the RSI, it already made a big move. People might be taking their profits. I'm thinking the opposite of the retail investor. So I can potentially, if it gives me the right signal, trade this off of that resistance right there. And now my risk to reward looks like this. I can easily stop out, but I've got all that reward back down. That's the beauty of trading. You can make money going up and I can make money coming right back down. Okay. So that's what's going on in my mind for my people inside of the community that are wondering sometimes. I think a lot of y'all have got it, but that's what's in my mind right here is the risk to reward tool is I'm in resistance. The market's already made a big move. The RSI is in caution territory on an hourly, and I can get a nice little pullback if I see resistance holding and I get a red candle break back down like this. Now I've made 30 to 40% of my money in a $2 to $3 move. Okay. And then guess what? I'll take the profits. Great. Someone enter and re-enter calls back down here or re-enter buys right back down here and take it right back up. All right. So just kind of giving a little bit of extra backstory on sometimes, you know, that maybe others may not do on the teaching side is, well, why would you short this? Or like, why would I wait for that to pull back? Or why would I not just enter on Monday morning since it's bullish and just everyone else entered on Friday, Brian? I missed the move. Can I just enter on Monday? Maybe, right? Maybe you could. Or maybe those people that told you to enter are getting ready to take their profits and they're like, man, you didn't make all that money on Friday. And then you get trapped. It pulls back. And they're like, man, I locked in, blah, blah, blah. It's like, man, I lost money. Yeah. You entered at the wrong time, you know? So Entry, 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 entry is pivotal. Okay. All right. Let's jump into answering Tanvir's question. And then we're wrapping up in the next 15, 20 minutes, right on time at that hour 15, hour 20 mark. So if you got any other questions, if this has been good, give me some fire emojis, give me something. If it hasn't been good, let me know some feedback as well. If you're like, this dude talks too much, I'm sorry that you don't want to learn. You can go to another channel. That's cool. You know, I'd rather someone understand why I'm talking about something than just give me the levels and go. All right. So let's jump into things that I'm looking at potentially shorting into September, or things that I think are a little bit overextended, right? That may have a pullback in September. Okay. So I know Ben's going to hate to see this, but Google is one of those ones that has made extreme bullish move to finish off after its earnings. It's been lagging into the summer months. It finally caught up to the market. Google is one of those that I'm looking for a potential short opportunity if it gets to roughly around 210 to 215. Okay, I'm watching this area keenly around 206 because it did break into a new all-time high. This is going to have to be with data, right? And also potentially NVIDIA earnings. So even though Google, I'm extremely bullish on, right, for the long term, right, I may be looking to short Google back down into 200. Okay, so it looks something like this. Okay, cool, man. Google's going crazy. Google's going crazy. Google's going crazy. All right, cool. That's fine. Let it push up into 210. There's a gap back down here. I just needed to break trend, right? And this, this takes time to learn how to short the market, what I look for. But my ideal is a grind up like that, and it breaks trend back down. I take a retest and then take that big move all the way back down. Very similar to Palantir. All right, so I can do a whole video if y'all want to know my shorting the market strategy. Do it very well. It looks very similar to this. Palantir missed this one, but it grinds up like that. It finally breaks trend, gets going, get a couple of days, and then the big move comes flush right back down. Easy money. Okay, from an overextended stock, right, that has been extremely bullish, that everyone's raving about. Very similar to HIMS. Okay. Extremely bullish. Everyone's raving about, all the way up in all-time highs, blah, 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 blah. Breaks trend, right? Keeps jumping up every single day, gives me a signal, breaks trend up, right back down. Right? Sometimes it's staircase up, elevator down. And I love to take that elevator down. I don't like waiting. Okay. So that is one that I'm looking at, is eyeing Google around that 210, or if I see a failure back under 207. Why? Because you can have is what we call a look above and fail. Very similar to this. Google, extremely bullish. Whoop, look above, fell all the way back down. Went from 206 to 182. So Google is one of my watches for a potential short. And I will tell my community if I see the signal, we already know what that looks like with a gap showing right there. And then there's more down below, right? So Google is one of those that has been grinding up higher. And I just need one little signal to see if it wants to pull back a little bit deeper, right? Now, Google also has positive news, right? So some of you are like, well, Brian, didn't Google just make a deal with Meta? I know all that, right? That's fundamental analysis. I keep that in the back of my head. But I'm a technical trader, right? A lot of times they pump it up to a level just to get to that level. It's called a liquidity grab. So there's orders that are already up there at that level that they could just pump it up with the news, swing it back down so they can pick up at a better level, right? So Google is one of those I'm watching for that 207 level this week of what it does, and I will short it. There's those gaps, right? So if Google breaks that trend, it will look very similar to Palantir. Start breaking that, pull all the way back down here like that. Okay. That makes sense. So Google is one of those that I am watching for a deeper pullback. I would not chase it up into these new highs personally, unless you already have shares, you're holding your shares, you're holding your shares, you're holding your shares. But Google at this point, I'm looking at it to potentially short it if it gives me the signal. Now, if it falls, the biggest signal would be if it falls back below, deeply below that 197 level. Okay. Because that 197 was very big right here where we couldn't get above. You see that? 198, 197, 198, 197. If it just falls like that, retest higher, that would be another signal right there, and rejects 200 back down to 180s. All right. So there's one I'm looking at ideally for a potential short opportunity, puts going, or a pullback. You can look at it as puts, meaning you're making money coming down, or you can look at it as saying, man, if Google pulls back, I'm going to buy the dip. You can look at it that way. All right. Apple, another one where it may have a pullback before it gets to that big level that people may want it. Okay. So the best one level, in my opinion, would be closer up into kind of this 240 level, in my opinion, but it's all going to be based off of, you know, what NVIDIA does in the earnings. I mean, there's some gaps above here where Apple is also lagging, but Apple also made a move from 200 to 235 in pretty much 2-3 days, right? So Apple is another one that I'm watching push back up into this level, right? If it gets bullish, push back up into that 240 and see if it gets weak off of there and pull back deeper like that. Okay. Now, Brian, well, I thought Apple was supposed to be a $250 stock. I'm not saying it won't be. Right. But if we pull back to that 215, what does that produce? Another higher low to go higher like that. So the trend still stays intact. Do you see that trend right there? Right, that 215, 216 level, that's not even dangerous if we pull back to that. So Apple could pull back 15, 20 bucks, and that's still at a support to buy the dip and go higher. All right. So Apple's another one that I'm kind of watching with this selling here, right? Coming into here, 220 it held. Yes, it can push all the way back up to 230, 235, maybe even 240. Right. But in the bigger scheme of things going into September, October, if it does have a bigger pullback, I'm watching Apple back down into the 220s or 215s. Okay. All right. Now, I've got questions, to be honest with you. This one might be a little bit, and I'm going to go into bullish sentiments. I'm just giving you an idea of potentially some big stocks that, like Tanvir asked, what might, you know, pull back a little bit deeper. NVIDIA, it's got to come through. I'm not saying people are like, man, you think NVIDIA is going to, you know, not beat earnings? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's the case at all. It is the beast of all beasts. I mean, their employees are, you know, 8-figure earners, 8-figure net worths. If you've been to NVIDIA for I don't think that NVIDIA is going to miss earnings. It's going to simply be based off of what's going to happen with, you know, their tariffs. There's been some China kind of situations and their partnerships and stuff like that, and the guidance. And it's also, you know, broken this kind of trend back down. And if it, you know, breaks new all-time highs, a lot of people want NVIDIA to get to 200 before it pulls back. Right? It's close enough to 200. Can you just get to 200? Right? So I'm not saying that NVIDIA is going to, you know, miss earnings or anything like that. But you can see what I have drawn here is I'm watching this kind of underbelly. It got above that 180 level and tried to break new all-time highs, trapped people, and pulled all the way back to 168. Right? So I need to watch this, what it does here, to make sure that it doesn't, you know, if earnings comes in great, we're blasting past that. You'll see a candle like this. Cool. NVIDIA does what it's supposed to do. But also, I do not want to be shocked if NVIDIA does something like that and turns that into a bear flag and we start filling some of these gaps back down. Right? And that starts the selling for September. Okay. So I'm watching NVIDIA. I personally still don't like any buys on NVIDIA or buying on NVIDIA heavy up in this area. I like buy zones closer to 150. I like buy zones closer to 140, right? That would be the retest, those previous highs right there, closer to 150. If you're already in NVIDIA from 86 or lower, we're good. If you got NVIDIA shares, underneath 100, around 100, you're good, right? Like just keep your average cost, buy lower, dollar cost average. That's great. New investors are like, man, should I buy more up here? I'd be very cautious. So NVIDIA, got questions. If I'm a structured person or I like, structures, is this a head and shoulders kind of situation? We'll see. So NVIDIA kind of got some questions about on NVIDIA. All right. Meta already did it. Look at that rising wedge on Meta, broke that trend, elevator back down. So Meta is another one that had a great run and it's retesting. Okay. So Meta retests back up here, right? Creates a lower high underneath that 780. It's got gap back down to 700. So Meta is another one. It's a big player. I think Meta is another one that needs to like pull back just a little bit. Zuck's been doing absolutely amazing, with the running of the company and whatever your feelings are about Zuckerberg. But as long as we're holding 740, that is a support level right there. But I like Google. I like Apple pulling back a little bit. Pretty much all big tech, in my opinion. Right. All right. Hood is another one I'm really watching up here because Hood has a lot to do with crypto and Bitcoin, which we're going to get to in a second. But Hood is another one that we've been trading very well. Shout out to Dreama in our community that's been trading Hood very, very well lately. And she got this move from 116 back to 100, got a piece of that move, over 127% on her money. Okay. So Hood showing a lot of selling pressure or profit taking up here, but still forming higher lows. I want to watch Hood going into this September, October. Does it give us a bigger pullback, into some of these lower areas again on Hood? Okay. So the big low area would be back down here at 85 to 90. I think that's, very pivotal right there. That is the IPO top that we broke above. And it's not showing us anything yet, but it does have some overbought RSI levels up here on a weekly. And if it pushes any higher, I'm kind of watching this little channel here. If Hood gives another massive rejection, I mean, that's big money right there. I mean, yeah, shares, if we got shares, yes, we called these shares out a while back down here underneath 15, 20 bucks. So it might be that time for some people to take some profit, right? It might be that time. So I'm watching it very heavily up here underneath that 115. And then if it breaks trend underneath 100, if it gets underneath 100, it's making a Palantir move pretty quickly. Something like that. And there's a little gap back down there as well. Okay. So Hood is another one back down to 80, 85. If it does have some selling that comes in. All right. Tanvir, does that help? I got many more, but. Yep. Google did announce a new deal with Apple to replace Siri with AI Gemini. Yep. So Apple and Google, you're like, Brian, really? Like you're bearish on? Not bearish. I'm just looking for a short-term top and I will short it short-term and then pick up the dip lower back when it pulls back deeper for seasonality. If it takes out a new all-time high above 240, then I'm bullish up to 250 plus. Right? I would rather pick up Apple back closer to 220 to 218 to get a prime like trading entry. Shares, buy anywhere around here. Apple's a $250, $300 stock plus. If you believe in Apple breaking out new all-time highs back at 260 plus, yeah, it's still lagging behind. Right. So that's just my thesis based off this, my day trading strategies, not my long-term outlook on a weekly or a monthly. Does that make sense? Hopefully. I'm trying to get folks. Okay, perfect, Tanvir. Yep. So in summary, if anybody's confused, Tanvir was asking puts for September or October. That is seasonality. All right, seasonality. Typically around September, October, we have some type of daily or weekly pullback. That means you will see some red in the market typically for a short period of time. And then going into end of October, November, December, the market typically picks up back bullish nature and we go and finish off the year strong. All right. So a lot of folks kind of prepare for this saying, okay, if the market pulls back just a little bit, maybe not much, a couple of red candles, couple of red days, cool, I'll pick up some dips. Or if someone's savvy enough, we can make money on the way down. So yes, you can trade against a strong market if you're new, if you know what you're doing, right? Like no one, I wouldn't say no one. We talked about it, but not a lot of folks thought about shorting Palantir. If you told anyone in a coffee shop, hey, I'm going to short Palantir, they're like, what? And they knew what Palantir was. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to short it. That means I'm going to make money coming down. They're like, man, Palantir is not coming down. Right. So it is a little bit more of a strategy, or you have to understand your signals of where trends break and how to do that properly. If I see gaps, if I see things overextended on the RSI, Palantir on a daily time frame was at 80. Right. So it was due time for that to pull back, staircase up, elevator back down, give back the whole earnings move in a couple of days. Okay. So same thing. Let's go to our bullish setups. Lululemon, consumer discretionary, more money back in people's pockets. This is one of those easy money moves I'm already seeing here. Now, it is a bigger player for some folks as far as the amount of money it is. For some people, it's $200 a share, right? But this stock, in my opinion, okay, $400, $350 to $400 easily in 6 months to a year. $200 to $300 within 6 months. Okay. So if I've got a $300 target on this minimally, okay, what I would do is I would go in to options, or if you buy shares, same thing. If I go into options and I want to leverage options a little bit more, and I go into just say a year from now, just say June 2026, I'm not even going to go in 2027. Okay. And I don't have too much money, or I don't want to spend a lot of money, but I could have a really good risk to reward. Okay. I would look at somewhere around the 350 strike. You could even look at the $400 strike for a year out. Okay. You can see that $350 call option going up, right? Calls, pick up the phone, is already up 21%. Well, Brian, how much are those contracts? $700. Well, how much will that be if it goes all the way back up to there? Okay. I know there's a lot of stuff going on because I don't know who's on this live, but does that chart not look like the same thing as Lululemon? Okay. So right now, if you had bought the extreme dip of Lululemon at 185, you would have paid roughly $360. We talked about this, right? We talked about this. $360 for that call option contract. And now it's at $750. And you got a year on it. Well, there's the gap right there. You see that big gap that we just saw on the charts? Look over to your right. That's now $700. That's $3,800, $4,200, $4,600, $5,000, right? $6,000, $7,000. So you're talking about $400 turning into potentially just say $4,000. And that's one contract. You get my drift? Right. So when a trader or someone says, hey, there's kind of easy money coming in, right? This stock, Lululemon, did the same thing last time from this $200 level. And here it is in April of 2020. Went to 300 in a month. Went to 400 roughly in 3 months. So it went from 200 to 400 in 3 months. Right? So is it not in the same spot yet again? And history typically repeats itself, and rate cuts. Now we still got to get through some levels. You see that previous low right there would be my first target, which would be roughly that 270. Right. It also is showing a hammer candle on a monthly time frame. That is a hammer bullish candle. Okay, on a monthly time frame. The RSI also on a weekly time frame is at 30, oversold. On a daily, oversold. And they're also picking up the dip. There's also a gap, and it's also has broken trend. Downtrend, 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 downtrend. There's the break of trend. Okay. We have a break of trend, typically sits here a little bit. Next thing you know, it starts to do this. Next thing you know, it's up back at 300. All right. Also, we got earnings coming up on the 4th of September next week. So it's kind of like, man, okay. Do I go ahead and get a position this week? Because if this thing starts moving very, very quickly, which Lululemon can do, but on September 5th, if the earnings come out halfway decent or they have really good guidance going into the holidays, this thing could be at 270 before I know it. All right. Now, when you're talking about like, man, I'm getting excited. Like, shoot, I'm about to enter tomorrow. Okay. As I tell my community all the time, you got to have your risk intact. What if it's like this? What if it falls lower? Right? Well, you also have to have your risk intact to say, okay, well, what if it falls lower and it wants to come a little bit lower down in here and then rip up? Well, I've got to be ready to add potentially another contract or just cut my losses and re-enter. So I don't talk in a gambling mentality. I talk about it in like, man, this risk to reward. I've got 3, 4, 5 confluences, things that are going in the right direction to say this thing could be skyrocketed very, very soon. All right. Another cheat code that you may want to just kind of check out sometimes is what I'll do is I'll just go into LULU. Let's look at this. If you're on Twitter, some of you aren't, that's okay. Threads, that's okay too. But you can kind of get a sentiment again from the nature of investors. So if I go into LULU calls, okay, what I'll do sometimes, I'm like, man, let me just check my analysis. Earnings are 2 weeks away and God knows what happens then, but the risk to reward on this one looks really good. That was on the 17th. I was talking about it last week. We're sitting at the analysis roughly about the same as mine, right? So same sentiment there. LULU, smart money zone. Yep, we're talking about smart money. Solid bounce last week. $300 target setting up within the next 60 to 90 days. Yep, same sentiment, same thing. So we're all investors on the same page, right? Weekly chart looks ready to test the 9 EMA overhead. Potential for a decent bounce down here. Monthly setup for a bullish hammer candle. What did I just say? All right. So does that make sense? Is now I'm, as an investor or a trader, my confidence is building to say, man, do I enter now? Do I enter now? Do I enter now? Right? You start to get real interested in saying, man, this could be some easy money. Right? If Lulu is going to go from roughly $200 to $300 to $400 minimally, and I've got a year on the contract, or I buy some shares. Put a 6 in the chat. There's one. I don't have any Lulu shorts. I don't have any Lulu shorts. I'll be transparent. I get my stuff from Target, bro. I ain't. No, thank you. No, thank you. As much as these women, I'll shout out men too. Much as these women spend come out of Lululemon $500 for 5 pair of leggings. I'm like, bruh, like, wouldn't it be cool if you could say, man, Lululemon, like their stock was cheap and you went and bought Lululemon, you know? Yeah, the product's solid. I've been told to try it. I just can't justify $90 shorts. Now, some of y'all, Brian, you shopping at Target, bro. I've had my, ma'am, I've had my All in Motion stuff from Target since Target came out with All in Motion. Me and my boy LaDante, founder of New Age Capital, we got into Abercrombie and Fitch when they changed their whole thing, right? That's how we knew about Abercrombie in 2023 when it popped A&F, because Abercrombie got a new designer and we were into fashion. Abercrombie pulled back, right, all the way to $14 and went to $196, one of the biggest turnarounds because they got a new designer. And if you notice, they became more inclusive. It didn't smell like a locker room in there anymore. It is now anyone and everyone is quote unquote wearing Abercrombie, or that style is in. All right. So yeah, I do not have any Lululemon. I have one jacket that I got as a gift. Doing foo-foo exercise in Lululemon. Yeah, that whole aloe Lululemon thing, man. Every time I walk in there, I'm like, man, this stuff looks good. $90. I'll chill. $120 for a t-shirt to work out in. I'm good. 10 Veer. This is bonus time. 10 Veer. You mentioned MP, I think last time, and we talked about this potential short on MP. And it might be given some type of signals. So you might want to take a look at it. This MP starting to break trend just a little bit here, right? If we see that, got a little bit exhausted, broke a little bit of a trend, retest. That MP could do something like this if it decides to pull back. So that MP materials could be one that might be on your watch for a short or a pullback as well for puts. Okay, let's go back to our big bullish nature ones. Lululemon. So there you go. If you're in our community, we'll give more ideas if you're already in. Cool. Here's a cheaper one, or less expensive one in the healthcare space, which is CNC. We've been talking about this, have shares at $26. CNC, I've got minimally up to 40 and $50. Got a big gap up here. Is it going to go up there straight away? Maybe not, right? Could this be a break of trend right here and it could pull back like that into 20 and then go? Yes, it is possible. CNC in the healthcare space, very similar to UNH. It is more, quote unquote, affordable for a lot of folks. If they're like, man, I can't do UNH, or, I don't have enough cash flow to do UNH to make it worth it. It's $300 a stock. The options are expensive. Okay, that's fine, right? CNC is another one. HIMS, another one here sitting at a decent level. You can see on this pullback, double topped pullback. I know a lot of you, or some of you have been reading about the lawsuits and all this stuff and all the negative news. They did the same thing with UNH and pulled it back, but it is pulling back on a technical level back to this 40, back where buyers are sitting. Big bullish nature there, and it's sitting again right at $40. So I'd watch this at 40, right? It could make this move right back up if it holds this level and starts building. So watch HIMS maybe reclaiming back above this $47 level, gets it back above 47, could get back above 50 really quick, and then we're going right back up to the highs as healthcare makes that bullish run, okay? Yeah, the headwinds could happen, Ben. Headwinds could happen as always, right? That's why I always want to have a head on a swivel, and especially going into seasonality like this, right? If I'm playing calls, or if I am, looking at what I want to buy, right, into typically a more bearish seasonality, right? I want to have everything on a head on a swivel, okay? Because UNH, look at that. Everyone's saying, man, buy UNH. Well, UNH has already made a big move up here off of 250, right? And it's got a gap. If it doesn't get back above, it could pull back too before it goes higher, right? So that's the headwind that could happen is we could have a pullback on some of the big stocks that everyone's getting hype about, healthcare, keep buying, things of that nature, right? So we could have a pullback before we go higher, right? So I would keep these healthcare stocks on watch, right? You can see Merck is moving as well off of this level, right? So I want to watch Merck at 85 bucks as long as it holds above that $85 level, right? Merck is also one in the healthcare space that it's got a $100 price target on it, right? And we want to watch that keenly as well, okay? So all these white that you see here are bigger moves that I'm watching very closely, big swing trades, 6 months, year out, things like that. Everything else, in my opinion, needs to kind of pull back a little bit. You can take it continuously up, but it needs to pull back. TTD is another one I've been talking about that has a lot of opportunity back on the upside, that it's fairly inexpensive. Okay. So TTD, I'd watch this buy area down into here, giving it potentially, if it pulls back even further, back into 45, but anywhere around $50, I like TTD. Anywhere around $50, you could be $5 off here or there, but anywhere around $50, it could do a little dance, kind of like UNH did, pull a little bit deeper, and then that's where it goes. But I like TTD as well as having roughly a $70 price target. So you can do the same little trick that I do here on TTD to, if you want to kind of converse it, man, I don't believe this dude, Dr. B, let me check it. Okay. You can do TTD inside of here and kind of give a general sentiment. I'm not saying trust these folks. Maybe you know some of them, but it's like, okay, calls, 50 call December 19th, 45 call January 16th. I give some free plays on my Twitter as well sometimes. Leap calls 55 June 18th. Yeah, I mean, there's an easy price target of $60 to $70. So he's doing a 55, staying right in the money, giving it a year out. Makes sense. Okay, TTD, trade desk, 40% drop. Doesn't make sense. Yes, price target remains in the 70s. There you go. Same sentiment. Okay. So 77 call expiring, 20. Okay, that's some other person. Okay. Large call strike. Yes. Awesome. There you go. So it just kind of make your own. Bought 100K TDD today, July 14th. Cool. Probably bought a little bit more. There we go. So TTD, another one that is extremely bullish for shares, or leap options all the way out until 2026 and maybe even to 2027. All right. Right at the 1.5 hour time frame. Any other thoughts, questions, perspectives? My main watches for this week is I'll be paying attention to my main tech stocks that I watch on a daily basis, watching the overall market. Amazon, highly interested in this as well as it pulls back to 225. That could hold as a support for Amazon. And I've got a price target on Amazon back to 230 and then back to the highs as well. So it looks something like this. Amazon calls like that. Right? Or if Amazon clears 230 and we press above, we got about $3 to $4 more. Again, Amazon is in the consumer discretionary area of buying. Okay. Labor Day sales, Amazon moving into the holidays. People like the rate cuts. They want to spend more money. Cool. So Amazon, watch this 226 level, maybe for a pullback slightly. Amazon's got a price target of 230 plus on it. We can look at calls on Monday or for this week on Amazon. All right. So I like that setup. AMD, got to mention it. AMD, massive setup here. Advanced money destroyer for some people, but AMD, I know it's going to be very pivotal with NVDA earnings, but AMD, very keen here. I love this kind of hold here of 157. I can trust this level. Previous highs, support 160, 157, bounce, reclaim, 160, bounce, reclaim. And we've got this level right there, 165 roughly, that held above on that retest. So beautiful chart here, consolidation. We've got our famous gap fill above, right? So I may be a little bit more bullish on potentially Monday into some of the data, and then I will get maybe a little bit once it reaches those highs or those resistances that I like that I said set up for September. I might be looking at shorting, but right now the market continues higher. Right, we've got some bullish setups. AMD, I've got a price target of 180 ideally if we get really, really moving. Okay, but 176, so that's about a $10 move on AMD. All right, so free money there if you want to take a look at AMD calls this week, or taking those calls out till maybe giving it, if you're trading, maybe looking at 180 calls, right, for maybe a week out or so, just kind of giving it easy money kind of situation there. We might have to hold through NVIDIA earnings potentially, but that 180 call September 5th looking pretty decent there. It's right in our price range of 150, 160. Might be looking at those, decent amount of interest on it. If I go out to September 19th, even more interest there, as you can see, building on those 180 calls, 17, 19, and even we got people looking at 200 price target on AMD going into September, right? So AMD looking pretty bullish here, right back up. All right. Is a volatile stock. Be careful on it. It even, freaks me out a little bit sometimes, but AMD extremely bullish. If I get confident on a level, I will take it right at there. All right. So we may want to get some starters potentially on AMD Monday morning for anyone in Leverage University. MU, I've been looking to short this one potentially. This one could be interesting. We're all the way back down to 100. So that's a short watch I'll watch. I've been liking trading that as well. Palantir, I need to let that settle in. It's not at the level that I want. Tesla, very bullish. Consumer discretionary. It's in that sector. Tesla getting very bullish. TSLL, if you want to invest into Tesla and you don't want to mess with the actual Tesla, there's TSLL at a more affordable price, right? Buying it anywhere around $10. We love it at $6, $7, but 10 to 12, great. We got a price target potentially on $17 to $20 on TSLL. So, or more. All right. So TSLL, you can buy shares pretty easily there. Pretty much anyone can spend $12 on a share. Okay. Wrapping up with crypto. Crypto here is moving. We got crypto there, and we got Bitcoin sitting in a very interesting spot here. Okay, previous highs, needs to hold that kind of 110 level and bounce up higher. ETH, right? Just absolutely massive. Almost hit that $5,000 level that everyone was watching for, above 5,000, but it is at a pivotal high right here. People taking their profits. You can see ETH is pulling back. So we might get a little pullback on crypto on Monday morning before, but that could be one to watch as far as the crypto stocks. So Coinbase or Connell. Connell is the leverage version of Coinbase. You can see that gap right there back up to 50. All right, so Connell might be one to watch out for call options, maybe into October, or maybe giving it a full week there. You can watch that back up into your level, or if you trade Coinbase. But yeah, Bitcoin could be moving going into the holiday season for sure, and it had a nice pullback. Looking pretty bullish on some of the crypto stocks. All right, let me check questions because I'm starting to speed my... Yeah, Bitcoin's dropping. Just a little pullback. Yep. Big tech, NVIDIA. Upstart. That chart looks beautiful. That chart looks beautiful. Previous support right there. Nice hold. Maybe even an inverse head and shoulders right there. Off $60. Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. This is how a chart looks before it takes off. This is kind of how Robinhood looked. It took a minute. People were kind of like they kind of, mistakenly just didn't look at it. And then the next thing you know, they start like really innovating. Things start happening. Look at Robinhood when it was down here, right? Big push up on IPO, people start, oh man, maybe that was a fluke. All right. Starts consolidating, they pick it back up, and it runs from $7 to $100. So it's taking a minute, but this chart looks roughly the same. Big IPO, right? 2020 up to $400, and it's starting to build again. All right. A lot of the 2020 stocks, Zoom, big earnings from Zoom. So that is very interesting there. So Zoom looks like it's trying to get to that 100. It takes that 100. I mean, we might be having some conversations, you know, that this might be something, but it's hard. It's hard to say. I mean, you had a once in a lifetime pandemic where where everyone needs Zoom, and it goes from $60 to $600. I'm like, is some kind of y'all setting up for another okey doke? Like, why are all the pandemic stocks starting to pick back up again? What's going on here? Y'all heard about that plague thing over in oh man. Yeah, it was $2. Exactly. All right. We're over time. I appreciate you all so much. Any final last questions for those that are hanging out with me? A lot of you, it's getting late on the East Coast, so going once, going twice. Yeah, rate hikes killed it. Yep. So if we get some cuts coming in, if we get some rotations, some small caps helping out, we get those people borrowing again. Yeah, a lot of these SoFis, Upstart, Affirm. I could talk about this stuff all day. This is bad. Same type of chart. Affirm, $100 plus. And it's got earnings on Friday. Man, sheesh. I'd love for it to pull back on earnings. Maybe just one of these. Yeah. Every day, head on a swivel this week. Every day, head on a swivel. All right, folks. Peace, love, and blessings to you. Thank y'all so much as usual. Join Leverage University. I'll see y'all. Thank y'all so much for the positive support, positive energy on our lives. No negative stuff. Always learning, and bring some folks back with you. Thank y'all so much. Peace, love, and blessings. Talk to y'all later.